Hey guys, before the episode starts, I just want to give a big shout out and thank you to Dave Sims. He was a blast to interview and talk to. I think you guys are going to enjoy the episode too. And until the next one, peace. Welcome to UI. Today we are very lucky to have a true titan of the broadcast industry. This man has covered everything from the 1988 Olympics to being a radio host for the Knicks in the 80s and 90s. He was the voice of the Temple Owls for a few years. Sunday Night Football play-by-play analyst for Westwood One from 06 to 2012. And not to mention, he is the play-by-play analyst for the Seattle Mariners since 2007. Dave Sims, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for coming.
Good. Nice to see you. How's everything?
Doing great, man. Doing great. So I'll get right into it. I know you're a busy man. You have a lot of things to do. You have the game later on today in Baltimore. Growing up in Philadelphia, was broadcasting something you always wanted to do, or what?
Real simple. That's a simple answer. Yes. I mean, I wanted to be a Major League Baseball player, but at some point, that reality hit me. I was a decent baseball player, but reality hit in high school late. And even though it's a 4-year starter, yada yada yada. Played with a couple of a city championship team and American Legion. We were runner-up another year, and it wasn't like the scouts were knocking on my door or anything. I was like, hey, okay, and broadcasting something I always liked. I've been a sports guy growing up in Philly. Sports was such a huge part of growing up, and I'm right where I need to be, right where I should be. This is what I was aiming for. Yeah.
So going to Bethany, I would be remiss if I didn't mention it. Somewhere I'm going next year. You played football and baseball, or you were a catcher, I believe. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Did I see that you finished third the one year in kickoff returns for the Pack?
Yeah, mainly out of fear because we were getting kicked off to a lot. We go to Washington in a couple of months, and the guy that was our quarterback, Marty Marinoff, he got hurt in spring in preseason drills, and that basically killed our season. And I wound up, a couple of times I wasn't the deep guy, but I was the intermediate guy.
Mm-hmm.
Or sort of a wedge, and the ball kept coming to me, and then they eventually put me back deeper. And so I think it was more on volume than anything. It wasn't like I was breaking for 80 yards.
Still finished third in the Pack though. That's impressive for kickoff returns.
Yeah.
So coming out of college, I read that you started at WNBC Sports Night. That was your first job. Is that correct?
That was my first huge broadcast job. I started out, I went right to the New York Daily News. I was fortunate in August right after I graduated, I got 3 offers: Chicago Daily News, Philadelphia Inquirer, where I interned in the New York Daily News. And I took New York and I stayed there. I was there 7 years before I got into broadcasting at Satellite News Channel, which is now Headline News.
Okay. So coming out of college, was it intense to see all those offers to kind of start to do what you really wanted to do? How intense was it to just jump into it like that?
Well, I was mainly thankful, to have those opportunities. The intensity was going to New York. I mean, I have an aunt in New York, and I had one friend, a Bethany friend, who lived out in Queens, so I didn't really know anybody in New York. That was intense, going to the number one media market right out of college at 22 years old.
Yeah.
Going to the New York Daily News at the time, the number one selling paper in the country, with a bunch of World War II and Korea veterans there, and I was the first black guy there covering sports and one of the few black reporters in the paper. So that was intense. Working your way through that.
Yeah. So you've covered a lot of different things in as your time as a broadcaster. What was the most difficult? Because I saw that you did track and field for the Olympics in 1988. You covered college basketball. You covered that very, very big George Mason UConn upset a couple years back. So what is the most challenging sport to call, and how have you been able to switch between sports and be so good as you are at it?
Challenging. It's challenging or difficult. I tell you what, it's all been a joy, to be honest with you. You throw yourself in. You have to learn stuff on the fly. Track and field, I'd done a Milrose Games. I'd done a couple of Penn relays, and a friend of mine who was one of the top PR guys, sports PR guys in New York City, he turned. He was at NBC at the time. He got Mike Weissman to hire me to do track and field because of my interviewing skills. So I had to learn that, and I had to learn a whole different group of people. I mean, I didn't know everybody in track and field by any stretch. So that was a lot of fun. And I got man, that was the Ben Johnson, FloJo Olympics, Carl Lewis. And oh,
Mm-hmm.
man, there were so many great people in that Olympics. That was a lot of fun. But in terms of, honestly, it hasn't been, I wouldn't say challenging. I would say you just do your homework. It's been a joy to be in position to have people to ask you to come on board and work for them, and to work the gigs that I've had.
Mm-hmm.
Has been unbelievable. It's just unbelievable.
So in 06, you go to Westwood One. You replace Joel Myers for the Sunday Night Football on Westwood One. So Westwood One being a radio station, being the play-by-play guy, that's a challenge because you have to relate to people what's happening because they're not seeing it.
Well, I had done a radio at Bethany, and I had been doing, by the time 06 came around to do Sunday Night Football, I'd already done a whole bunch of Sunday afternoon football after, let's see, from like 98, 05, I was still Big East football on TV. And I like, the beauty of this business, when you get to do radio and TV, it's two different functions. I mean, on radio, you got to use your words to paint word pictures and describe what is going on. And TV, it's basically just adding you're adding captions and setting up the analyst. And on radio, you're describing everything. What it looks like, smells like, where the ball is, near side, far side, left, right, how big a crowd, which way is the wind blowing, what's the score, all that kind of stuff. So it's an absolute. I love it. I love doing both. And this year in baseball, last couple of years, I've been doing probably, I don't know, 70, 30, 60, 40 doing TV and radio. So keeps you sharp.
So I obviously wanted to get to the Mariners. But first, I got to ask you what it was like to call that Felix Hernandez game in 2012 because, growing up watching baseball, that's one of the most special moments for me watching it because I was fortunate enough to watch that game live. Seattle being on the West Coast, I don't get to watch too many of those games, especially as a younger kid. But how special was that moment when you got to call that game?
Well, Felix was at the peak of his powers, and it was super special. We'd never had a perfect game. I think it's still it's the most recent perfect game. I think that was the 23rd perfect game in Major League history, and those are special. And here's the thing, I don't believe in this whole jinx thing. People are always getting on me on social media about, oh, you said it was a perfect game. And I said, yeah, because that's what's happening. That's what I'm paid to do, to tell you what's going on. The players, if they adhere to not talking to the pitcher and not saying no hitter, a perfect game in a dugout, I'm cool with that.
Mm-hmm.
But what I do is broadcasting. I'm telling people what is happening, not keeping it a secret. Hey, wow, they didn't got nary a hit here. I just come right out and say, hey, through 5, he's got a no hitter. In fact, it's a perfect game, right? And it's a point now where I'm defiant about it. And who was it the other day? We were playing, was it Houston? Was it Urquidy? Somebody, I think it was Urquidy. He had a perfect game through 4, and I said it. Somebody says, oh, way to jinx it. You said he had a perfect game. We went into the 5th inning, and I got to hey, if I had that kind of power, I'd have a championship ring on everything. Nonsense. So anyway, and that was a blast, and that, I think that was that was a great moment. It's a shame it didn't lead to a championship. And then the other great moment I had was last year in Game 161 when Mitch Haniger had the 2-run single, keep us alive for another day against the Angels. That was, in terms of emotion and an explosive moment, that was probably the most explosive moment I've ever had in baseball.
Yeah.
And over a 3-hour period, the Felix game is still number one.
Yeah, I was gonna talk about that clip because that clip went viral. I mean, Bleacher Report, Sports Center, everything.
Dude, that was unbelievable. I got home. My phone was sort of blowing up as I was walking to the parking lot. I got home and guys were calling. It's like, oh my dude, you killed it. It was great. And I heard from people this morning, and my sons called me. Said, dude, you've gone viral. It's like millions, and now it's up to millions of views and yada yada yada. So it was extraordinary. I'm still today's last day in May, so I still, as we go on the road, and if I'm seeing guys for the first time, I'm seeing a lot of people for the first time in 3 years. And like, hey man, that was a really good call last year with the Henry. So no, that was very cool. Very cool.
Yeah, that call was electric. I remember showing it to my dad. Actually, I was like, if this doesn't like get you going, I was like, I
Yeah,
really don't know what
yeah.
will.
Somebody, a couple of players told me that. Who was it? Kevin Kiermaier. He came up to me and says, "Dude, you killed that bases. I played it to get jacked." And I think one of our players said, "If I want to get fired up, I put that on." And
Absolutely.
I had people come up to me and tell me that. So, yeah, it was very fortunate. I'm glad I nailed it.
Oh, you absolutely did. But keeping with the Mariners, there's two guys I have to talk about. The one's obvious. I mean, Julio Rodriguez. We haven't seen a talent like this, in my personal opinion, in a while. I mean, he's batting 270 with 48 hits and 14 stolen bases. I mean, how special is this kid in your opinion?
Well, he's up to 270. He came from about a buck 36, and umpires, it seemed like they were hazing him. I mean,
Oh
he was
yeah,
close in the corners. He was getting rung up on, and he survived it. He didn't mope. He didn't explode. If he had it, I wouldn't have blamed him because he really was getting screwed.
yeah,
But he is a talent, and I always say that when I look at Julio, I look at it reminds me of two dudes who wore 24 and another guy who wore 21. We're talking about Mays, Griffey, and Roberto Cometti.
yeah, yeah,
And he plays with the joy that all three of those cats had, and the ability we were told it's there, and we're seeing it. And his ability, it's what 6'4", 225, 230,
hmm
to have worked on his run game and be so explosive to steal so many. What is he? Last I looked, I think it was 14 out of 17 in base
yeah,
stealing. Leads the American League, if not the majors.
yeah.
It's special, dude. And he's hitting the ball hard. And the manager Scott Service had a good point the other day. He says, I don't mind him hitting the ball on the ground because the power's coming and he's going to be getting the ball in the air. And I mean, he could be at minimum he could be a 25 home run guy. As he matures, he's only 21.
Yeah,
And
it's
he could be
insane.
a 35, 40 home run guy every year. And he's going to adjust to the league. The league, he'll back and forth, but he's getting smarter by the minute in terms of what they do at this level.
Yeah,
He's already a smart baseball.
oh yeah. And he has one of those swings, in my opinion, where it just looks so smooth off the bat. I mean, the way he plays, he's just a smooth player. And
Yeah.
a lot of the times with rookies like this, we could see that the pressure can really get to him on a slope or on a slump. I apologize. Like you said, like he could have exploded, but and we see that a lot with guys. I think with Jared Kelenic last year, I think when he first came up, we kind of saw him struggle with the majors at first until he got to settle in, but. It is truly remarkable what this kid is doing at such a young age.
Yeah, it's going to be a treat to watch. I mean, he's going to be, he's got a chance to be the face of the club. He's got a chance. Well, it pretty much is. And I remember the first home game when we had red carpet intros. They run in from right center field. I said this on the air. I said Julio's going to get the biggest ovation. It wasn't close, and he has a chance to be the face of baseball too as we move forward.
Yeah, another guy I like to talk about, and I think this guy flies under the radar a lot. J.P. Crawford. I mean, just as solid gets. When it comes to shortstops. I mean, he's batting 306 with 49 hits. He's not a big power guy, but that's not what he does. I think that he's one of those guys that fly under the radar a lot.
Yeah, slap and run. He's got a little bit of pop. If you go middle in, I mean, he can yank one on you. Before, he seemed that his hit game was more pull side, but now he's spreading the ball all over. So you don't see the defenses don't do those exaggerated shifts on him. They got to play him straight out.
Yeah.
Really good a great shortstop. Won a Gold Glove a couple of years ago. Perry Hill, our infield coach, is one of the best in the business, and they have Perry has a great relationship with all the infielders, and they swear by everything he says. And JP, JP's a keeper, and I think all you needed to see was that with all those shortstops who were available during the offseason,
Yeah.
Jerry Dipoto said that, hey, if you come here, you're gonna have to play second base because JP's our shortstop.
Yeah, I mean Correa, Baez, all these guys, they were there.
Yeah.
But JP has one of the most wild plays in the four hole I've ever seen in my entire life. I think it came last year, where it was the backhand against, I want to say it was the Astros, where he jumped through almost Jeter style across his body, and it was one of the wildest plays I've ever seen.
Oh, that was the one where I think he was parallel to the ground, feet off the ground, threw accurately,
Yes.
strongly, and got the runner. Yeah, that was a ridiculous play. It almost looked like what was the movie that Keanu Reeves was in? The
Oh.
you know what I'm talking about?
I do know what you're talking about.
Yeah, so it's he's like some different dimension kind of deal, man. That was a great play.
Yeah, just freak athleticism. being around the guys, as much as you are and talking to the guys and calling the games, what is it like, traveling with these guys as many days of the year as you do, and you get to see, all these different cities. So what side of broadcasting, because that's the side that I believe people don't get to see, is traveling. How enjoyable is it?
Oh, it's a blast. I mean, you gotta well, right now I think in Baltimore it's like 1,000,000 degrees here on the East Coast, so
Yeah, it is.
I don't think I'll be doing too much wandering right now, but I'll probably stay inside and get prepared for the game, prepare for the next couple of series. But over the year, I mean, this is my 16th year, so over the years, I know in Chicago I've taken in some museums, San Francisco, played a lot of golf over the time, and the guys are, I'm a lot. Heck, I'm older than the manager now, so and the coaching staff, I think, with one exception, Perry Hill, I think is about a year older than I am. But no, the guys are cool. I'm I think I'm professional and friendly, and get along with the guys and have good professional relationships with them. And I'm not looking to rip anybody. And just trying to tell their story. Hey man, how you feeling today? What's going on? What happened last night? Hey, tell me about this. That kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And then you work that into the broadcast, and it's really cool. We were in Boston week 10 days ago, and I was at a restaurant waiting for some takeout. I had a different pullover on. I had Root Sports on it. A guy comes up to me and goes, "Hey, Root Sports." He says, "We love Root Sports." And it was Logan Gilbert's dad. He says, "Man, we love listening to you call the game. Oh man, we watch all the time. Yada yada yada."
Mm-hmm.
So you hear, you get that kind of feedback. So that's really cool, especially when you hear from moms and dads.
Yeah, absolutely. Is there a city that once a year that maybe you don't get to travel to a lot that you're like, oh, I can't wait to go there and call a game? Maybe we have a series there or an away game there. Is there one spot?
Yeah, I hear you. I really do like Wrigley Field, and next year we play everybody. So hopefully we'll get a chance. The press box is it's built from pre World War One.
Yeah, it's old.
The media box is not as accommodating, not as it's
ancient,
not real big. But I tell you what, it's functional.
Mm-hmm.
They've done a great job preserving so much at that ballpark, and same with Fenway Park. I know every year we go to Boston, so that's always a treat. I always like the atmosphere up there, the electricity around the ball club. Yeah, I live in New York, so Yankee Stadium's a given. San Francisco, I like San Francisco's ballpark. I love Pittsburgh's ballpark.
Yeah,
that is a fabulous. They did a great job there. So favorite ballparks at Pittsburgh, Wrigley, Fenway, whatever they call their Giants home. I can never remember. I think it's Oracle now.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the ones that. And Camden Yards is pretty cool too. And today, I'm looking forward to seeing the big carve out they made out in left field. That's a source of some controversy. So that should be interesting.
Yeah, my dad always talks about Camden Yards as the one spot that around us that's somewhat local.
Yeah.
Parentheses that he really wants to go to, but
from Youngstown, that's going to be about a 6-hour drive.
Yeah, but
maybe a little less.
Maybe yeah. But with the Mariners this year, it's unfortunate because they're sitting at 20 and 28, and in certain divisions that's almost first place. But in this division, you got the Angels who are just hot as all can be, and the Astros are always good. So, and the Rangers, who made a couple big signings in the offseason, they're sitting around 500. So, what's it going to be like on this upcoming, couple games to try and get back to that? Yeah.
This road trip, we could, boys can't fall on their face. I mean, as I look at the standings now, the Angels will come back a little bit. What is it? They've lost 5 in a row. They're still 5 games over 500. I still am shocked that Texas is a game under. I think that is a tremendous accomplishment to the first 2 months. I did not see that. And I think they picked it up a lot in the last week, 2 weeks. Okay.
Yeah.
We just went. When we just went 3-3 in that homestand. And we lost 2 out of 3 to Oakland, but beat Houston 2 out of 3. So, we got a long way to go. We made a late run last year. The circumstances a little bit different. I mean, our run differential's bad. Again, we're at minus 19. Our bullpen, if we tighten up the bullpen again, last year, the one of the biggest keys was that when Scott Service would go to the bullpen, the score tied, or if we had the lead, it stayed that way. And that hasn't been the case so far this year. We've blown a bunch of leads. That's why we were 8 games under 500. But It's going to be interesting. We get Justin up, then hopefully in a couple. Let's just say for discussion's sake, say third week of June,
Okay.
as he works his way back into shape. That could be a heck of a boon. We got Kyle Lewis came back the other day, and he's off to a very good start. So
Yeah.
and you're hoping that I haven't checked. Last time I checked, Kelnick's numbers were decent. They weren't great, but they were decent in AAA Tacoma. So if you get that bat back in the lineup, that would be huge.
Yeah, absolutely. And I like that you touched on the Rangers thing because they're over 500 in their last 10. They're 6-4, and Simeon just hit his first home run. Granted, it was a very timely grand slam, but I mean, with all the pieces that they signed, I can only imagine the pressure that they had going into that season, and to be where they are right now in
Awesome.
an insane division is wild. Is wild.
It's awesome when Simeon got off to a terrible start.
Oh
He's
yeah.
too good a player. I mean, he had a fabulous year last year. He set a record for second baseman for home runs, and he's a terrific player. There's no way he's going to be down, for the entire run here.
Yeah. So we were speaking about Parks earlier, and the one thing I did want to ask you, because it's a huge topic of conversation, among the baseball community, is Oakland's Park and the lack of people in Oakland's Park, specifically. When you go there, is it just as bad as, I don't want to drop names, but like Bleacher Report and Sports Center and all these people, all these accounts that post how few the fans are? Is it really that bad when you go there in person?
Well, first of all, I got the broadcast crew are friends of mine, and I feel for them. I feel for the fans there, and their owner has made a move, and
Yeah.
it certainly goes against the grain, which is an understatement. And he has a goal in mind, and this is the modus operandi he's using to get it there. So I feel badly for the fans. They have been really this is my 16th year, particularly early on in my tenure. Man, they were super competitive. Bob Melvin did a great job.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that he was able to and was allowed to, they basically cut him loose, and I think he was out of the job for 20 minutes and got the San Diego job. So
Yeah.
my heart goes out to the Oakland fans. There's a strong base out there, and I always get a kick out of the cats up in the right field stands and make all the noise and everything, and it's just tough. And the commissioner's on record as saying he's got to get that situation, the Tampa Bay situation, resolved. So I look forward to seeing the end result of those two cases.
Yeah. So coming out of the pandemic, I think everybody was hesitant, to come to ballparks and everything. But now that we're a little bit past that, and we have fans in the stadiums again, I think we're seeing a really, really, really large increase in late night TV numbers, for these Sunday night baseball games and so on and so forth. Was there a game this year that you watched that was like, it's good to have the fans back, whether it was in person or on television, where
yeah, it's all good to have fans back.
it was just rocking?
It's just I wouldn't, I don't cite any particular game or team, but the fact that people are back, and the mask restrictions are certainly been loosened, and I know my wife is staying on me about making sure I try to keep it on as much as possible. Easier said than done.
Yeah.
But no, the difference is unbelievable having the fans back. What was it? It was mid-season last year when we were able to open it up to everybody, the full capacity.
Yeah.
And it was great. I mean, the atmosphere, you can feel. I mean, if you just feel it. It's great. I mean, you hear them, you see them, they react to things on the field, and it's what it should be. And hopefully, the medical issues that the pandemic hasn't totally gone away, but it's certainly been mitigated a little bit, and hopefully we can eradicate it.
Yeah, I was up in Progressive Field. I was lucky enough to see Jose hit for a 5 RBI game, and it's
great.
He is his swing is so nice, and it blows my mind. Matt touched on it yesterday, Matt Underwood. The fact that teams, in certain situations are still pitching to him, like with certain, it blows my mind. I mean,
that's a good call.
Yesterday,
good call. I'm trying to think. We don't play them. We don't go to Cleveland until September 2, 3, 4. So they must come to us at some point. But yeah, that guy. I was hoping, during the off season. I think he was a free agent.
Yeah, he was.
And I was hoping. I said, boy, we were to pick him up, switch hitter, power, run, could play second if you had to.
Oh, yeah.
God, he's a good player, man. He flies under the radar. He shouldn't. He's one of the best.
Yeah, he's not very big either. I mean, he's one of the
he's a baseball player.
He is so good. I mean, yesterday, like, they're playing Kansas City, tie game, open base. I figured you'd take your chances with Owen Miller, who's also hot, but he's not Jose Ramirez.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
exactly.
But I just find it funny, and it's awesome, to see games like that in person again. But
yeah, I was just looking. Yeah, they come to us at the end of August for 4 games, and then we see them the next week for 3 games. So
yeah. I'm looking forward, to see, because Jose, he's in a lineup where it's weird because there's not a lot of big names in Cleveland's lineup. I mean, there's a lot of good quality contact hitters, but we're actually one of the last teams in the majors for home runs. So Jose a lot of the times gets pitched around, and I thought there was a good point that was brought up yesterday about it takes a certain type of hitter to be, that patient when he knows he's getting pitched around for most of the time to still have the numbers that he does, to lead the MLB and RBIs and so on and so forth.
He's special, man. He's believe me, everybody in baseball knows it too, man. The dude, he is, and he plays a really good third base.
Yes.
He's a terrific player.
I think he was overlooked for a while with the glove because in that same infield there used to be this guy called Francisco Lindor. I don't know if you've ever heard of him.
Yeah, just saw him a couple of weeks ago when we were at the Mets.
Yeah,
but we were there 2 weeks ago.
Yeah. But yeah, no, just a very, very, very good player. I don't want to drag it on too much. I know how busy you are. But the one question I really would like to ask is if you had one piece of advice for people who are trying to get into the broadcast industry or trying to call games or do anything like that, what would that piece of advice be?
Well, perseverance is the biggest thing. I mean, because you're going to get knocked down. You got to pick yourself. You get knocked down, you mourn, you get yourself up and rock and roll again. You just got to, and you got to continue to work on your skills, your interviewing skills, your speech, your delivery, your presentation, whether it be on radio, whether it be on TV. You just got to, it's like as the saying goes, you got to put in the work. You put in the work and get enough stuff out there for the people who are in charge, your executive producers, your presidents of regional sports networks, local stuff, whatever. That's the biggest thing. Just get to a point where you've got a good piece of tape to send out to some piece of tape. I'm dating myself, but you know what I'm talking about. A good resume reel to send out there that people are going to go, whoa, hey, I like this guy. And, that's where you want to get to.
All right, awesome. You could find Dave's Instagram and Twitter handles in the top right-hand corner. Dave, thank you so much for stopping by. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Good to see you, man. Hey, all the best, and let me know how you're doing at Bethany when you get there.
Absolutely, sir. Thank you very much.
All right, man. Be well. Take care. Thanks I appreciate the invitation.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, sir.
All right. Take care.